Hello, 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 beautiful people. How are you today? Today is another episode of Relax and Raunchy Relationships podcast with me, Ingrid Galloway, and my beautiful guest. Today's guest is
Oh,
Arielle Nakache from Barbarella Productions. So she is the queen of fun, owner of Barbarella Productions, and she creates intimate events and videos. They help humanize brands and creating brand buzz and customer delight. She recently launched Barbarella. Um, Barbarella, yes, comedy night, and loves her role as Razzle Dazzle MC. So she's a great MC, bringing maximum delight and fun to her audience. When she's not being Barbarella, you'll spot Arielle in Bondi wrangling her twin boys, surfing, skateboarding, jazz singing, ukulele strumming. Sounds like a lot of fun.
so fun. Well, I have to be on brand as the queen of fun, right?
That's right. That's right. That's right. And
Tough
now,
gig.
um, now, people, the reason why I bring Arielle in here because yes, she's a marketing wonderful lady, fun lady, but because she has a backstory that is very, very moving to me, and I know that a lot of you couples sometimes go through a lot of stress, various type of stress, and then her experience was particularly infertility. So she'll share a bit later with you. And welcome, Arielle.
Thank you so much, Ingrid. Mwah! Love Ingrid. Now, my turn to intro you. Ingrid Galloway is the founder of and relationship coach and chief relaxation officer of KAHYANGAN, which means heaven, a wellness clinic in Sydney. Ingrid's been a relationship coach for 11 years and a spa therapist for 21 years, mainly in five-star hotel day spas in Sydney, my favorite. She is very used to looking after thousands of highly stressed clients from all over the world and practices from KAHYANGAN in Five Dock and from clients' homes and offices and hotel rooms and online. Ingrid's work has always focused on stress, relaxation, and relationships. She has a really kind soul, I can vouch for that, and always seeks to reach out and support those with the healing process for many stressed people, broken, lonely hearted singles, stressed out parents, and loving couples that cross her paths. Ingrid does one-on-one coaching sessions, group workshops, and wellness at work programs for companies to create better engagement and harmony for their team members.
Oh, thank you for the warm welcome, Arielle. And soon,
Thanks, Ingrid.
newsflash, soon, um, retreat for broken-hearted singles. So that's coming. Ooh, I'm excited.
That sounds great.
Yes, I'm
And
excited.
tell me there's some hot stone massage or something going on there.
Ah, good tip. I may take on that advice. Yes.
Now turn around and massage the person in front of you.
Darling, I'm interested to know what is your why? Why is it that you do what you do?
Well, with Barbarella Productions, as per my intro, your beautiful intro to me, I recently launched my comedy nights to bring delight to the community. There's so much hardship going on in the world, especially at the moment. And let's face it, we all need to laugh. It's a great medicine, laughter, and it's great for dopamine. So I launched Barbarella Comedy Nights to really encourage people to get together and laugh. People who are from all walks of life come to my comedy nights, and also to support artists to thrive and, you know, get paid. I do pay my artists. I'm very generous. So I'm supporting both the community with fun and delight, and to sort of have a drink and relax on a Sunday night. I've got my next show this Sunday night. And also supporting artists from across Australia to keep creating art, because it's been really tough. This whole COVID situation's been really tough for artists. So I'm really privileged that I get to support artists. With my video work on behalf of Barbarella Productions, so video is my original trade. So COVID actually got me to kind of pivot a little bit and go back to my original trade, because it's something that I feel I'm good at, storytelling through video.
Yeah.
And a lot of people aren't really used to seeing themselves on video, or they don't like the way they look or sound. So my why there is helping my clients look and sound amazing on video so that they can share it out to their social media and build community engagement so that they can thrive. So everything I do really has the thread of helping my customers thrive, whether it's my comedy patrons or my clients who need video and marketing services. Yeah. And that gives me a little buzz. Yeah.
Yes.
Makes me feel good. I get good karma when I'm helping my clients thrive or helping people laugh.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for sharing.
You're welcome.
So,
yes, am I asking you now about your why?
yes. Well, I came from Indonesia. I came to Australia in 1996 to marry my ex-husband. But growing up in Indonesia, I was being preconditioned by my very religious parents, and they loved me and they molded me in the way that they could. But unfortunately, what I observed was how guilt and shame can be very damaging to a child's psyche. Unfortunately, it is part of the culture and the religion as well. So it took years for me to kind of like break away from that as an adult, in my own healing journey. And then the next stage was the 10-year marriage with my first husband. Unfortunately, it was an abusive one, so therefore I left. And during my own healing journey, I went back to college to study counseling and life coaching, and went through various self-development seminars. And straight away, I knew that I would be a coach, and my niche will be in relationship, because I'm just so passionate and compassionate to help others in similar sort of predicament. Especially when they're highly stressed, when they're brokenhearted, or when they're loving couples but start to sort of like having issues in their life, because who doesn't have issues, right? you may
Right?
be God, like I'm not God. I may be a relationship coach, but I have issues too.
And when you were talking about parenting with guilt, I've got twin 7-year-olds now, and and being an Australian Jewish Australian, it's like, yeah, I hear you in terms of parents. That's why therapists, will always be in business. It's always about the mother and guilt, right?
That's right.
Self-flagellation. We've all grown up with that. I don't know what culture doesn't do that to their children. I'm trying to break the circuit and not be that kind of parent, but we'll see.
Don't worry. I'm trying to. We're trying.
So still, if you can be in therapy when my boys are ready for you, that'd be great.
My door is always open.
Oh, fantastic.
So my next question for you is 3 tips to surviving the infertility roller coaster, because once you shared with me, and it was a very moving story. So yeah, I'm just curious if my audience can take up your tips if they're experiencing the similar sort of situation.
Sure. So firstly, I wanted to say that my experience of infertility is mine. I would never say to anyone, this is how you do this or how you do that. I had a very particularly, I think, anyone who's had anything to do with infertility or had to go down the rabbit hole of seeing a fertility specialist because they can't fall pregnant naturally when they're ready, not that anyone's ever really ready, would know that it involves heartache and trauma. And I call it the infertility roller coaster because you really don't know the twists and turns and the ups and downs you're going to be taken through when you buy a ticket to that roller coaster. Nobody wants a ticket to that roller coaster, but if you do get on that roller coaster, as soon as you're stamped with that label of infertility, so in our case, I was married, started a business and I went, okay, tick, tick. Now I'm ready to have a kid, I suppose. I was 30, 31. Um, after a year of unprotected sex with my husband, a doctor came out with it without flinching. You're infertile. I didn't realize that that's what infertility meant, that if you've had unprotected sex for a year with your partner, that and you haven't fallen pregnant naturally, that's my memory of what happened. What was it, about 15 years ago. So 15 years later, when you ask me what are 3 tips to surviving the roller coaster, the first thing I say is bad things happen to good people. You can't blame yourself. I looked at all kinds of, I was an IVF 13 times.
Wow.
And with every round, I was told, it's not you. There's nothing wrong with you. You're not doing anything wrong. But you can't help but feel that you are doing something wrong, that you're inadequate, that maybe you did something wrong in a past life. People will say to you, it'll happen when it's supposed to happen, or things happen for a reason. And I ended up just having to find my own mantras. And one of those was that bad things happen to good people. It's actually a book that was written by a Jew some time ago. And I took comfort in that because I felt like I was mostly a good person, a bit of a sinner, but mostly good. And and I just couldn't understand it, that I didn't know what I was doing wrong or what was wrong with me. I came to realize that health is fickle, life is fickle, life's chaos sometimes. And so bad things happen to good people is my first tip in terms of mental health. It wreaks havoc, infertility and the roller coaster that you go on and the ups and downs, not to mention the hormones. And a word that I came to is being hormotional, which is a great word mashup. But I was so hormotional for so many years. It drives you go a little bit crazy. And all the expectation and all the faith you put in every round of IVF, and then the failure and the grief that follows. You can hear it's just a constant up and down of hope and dismay and grief and sadness, and then hope and hope upon more hope and faith, and then down. So my next tip is that it's okay to not be okay. So infertility grief is a very particular type of grief, very nichey. If somebody hasn't experienced it, let's face it, if you haven't gone down the road of infertility or known someone who is infertile and struggling with fertility issues, you've really got no idea what it feels like. And a lot of people will say things to try and make you feel better.
Yeah.
And the grief that overcame me at times over the 9-year journey that I did, the 13 rounds of IVF, was so acute and so dark and so messy. No one wants to be messy, certainly not me. And I had a great therapist at the time, my beautiful therapist Estelle, and she'd say, you know what, when we're kids, we love playing in the mess and in the dirt and with mud and mess on our faces when we eat ice cream. But then you get to be an adult and you want things to be neat and tidy. And infertility is anything but. And when you're on IVF and you're not okay and you've got to go to work and you're having a panic attack in the bathroom because somebody's announced their pregnancy, or you're in a corporate meeting and a really pregnant woman walks in, all these things happened to me during my infertility decade. To put it mildly, I was not okay a lot. And those that stuck by me were okay with that. They got that this isn't all me, the grief and the ugliness and the messiness. And it was really important for me to find safe people that I felt I could be my true self with in that grief, people who could sit with me in my grief.
Yes.
And it's not easy. Grief is not pretty. So you need to find people that you don't have to do it on your own. That's my third tip, that you might be a very private person.
Yeah.
You might want to hold in your feelings of not being okay and holding the screams. Who doesn't scream on a roller coaster, right?
Yes.
And it's the same with grief. Sometimes you've just got to scream into a pillow, whatever you got to do. But sometimes, you know, my counselor still used to say, isn't it nice you think you can schedule your grief, Arielle? I'd be like, I got meetings today. I got presentations. I don't have time for this stuff today. And you do need to find a safe workplace, safe friends. You know, if your family members can't hold you through it, you need to find a great therapist. You need to find ways and people that can support you as you're holding on to that roller coaster for dear life and holding on with all your hope and faith and that things are going to work out. Because when they don't work out, and they may not work out, because everyone's like, oh, it's going to work out. Oh, I have some friends, people love to tell infertiles all their happy stories about, I had these friends, they tried for 3 years, then they adopted, and then they fell pregnant. Why don't you just adopt? Like, that makes you more fertile. Or I had other friends who would say, just go away, stop thinking about it. Like, that makes you more fertile. Or that you're doing it wrong because you're thinking about it too much. You know, I had 9 years of this, and in the end, you just need tea and sympathy. You need people who go, literally, they're there. Like, that sounds awful. Do you need a back rub? Like, do you need tea, wine, whatever it takes, you know? And I had all of that. Thank God. I had a friend who came over one day and said, I'm not good at this grief stuff, but I got wine and chocolate and I'm here. And I was so thankful for that because I didn't need to talk about it anymore.
Yeah.
I just needed friends and I needed to not be alone with it. It's such a lonely experience. You know, your friends are having babies. You start being ostracized. They don't want to rub salt in the wound by inviting you to their baby showers. Or if you do get invited, you don't go. They think you're a bad friend. And they're in their joy while you're suffering. It's a very peculiar type of life experience that I came to know as a spiritual crisis because it attacks you in so many ways, physically, emotionally, mentally, hormonally. It attacks your relationships, your friendships, your family. I have a very codependent mother who's, you know, my Jewish mother who just wanted to take my pain away from me and she couldn't, you know. So it's a very complex, very tough journey. For some people, they get stamped with infertility, have one round of IVF, they're pregnant, happy days, you know. And I thought that would be my story. And then I did a second round and a third.
Yeah.
And by the ninth, I can say now, you know, Seinfeld says tragedy plus time equals comedy. And I can be very flippant about it now and say, I was such a tragic, I was bitter and twisted. You wouldn't want to meet me now. Ingrid, if you would have met me 10 years ago, we wouldn't be friends. Like, you wouldn't want to know me. I was very sad. I was a very sad person. And finally I got off the roller coaster when I decided enough's enough. Yeah. And then people go, oh, and then when you stopped thinking about it and caring about it so much, you magically had twins. And it didn't work out that way for me either. So, again, I don't say to anyone that the way that we had our children is the way to do it, because we went around the world and opened a door that I never thought I'd open. We tried adoption. That didn't work. Yeah. That was my plan B. That was a bad plan B because I was 39 at that point. It's a very difficult process in Australia. So anyway, I could go down the whole rabbit hole of that, but you tell me what else you'd like to hear about because I realize we don't have that much time.
Yeah. Thank you so much for being vulnerable and share those 3 tips. Very, very useful. Thank you.
I don't think we're supposed to. Thanks for letting me share. I really believe that we're not supposed to live in isolation. We're not supposed to suffer. You know, the Buddhists say life is suffering, and it's not all suffering. But when we're suffering, we're not supposed to suffer on our own. We're not supposed to do this stuff on our own. And grief is something that unless you've experienced it, you can't. You could try doing it on your own, but I wouldn't recommend it.
Yeah.
I definitely, and you can try doing it sober, but I definitely needed a lot of red wine for every time it didn't work, and other drugs. Each to their own. And again, my beautiful therapist is still, if we would have had a daughter, she would have been called Estelle. She used to say in her thick South African accent, why wouldn't you get drunk every night? Why wouldn't you get stoned every night? And she'd validate the hell out of me. Because I'd go into my therapy sessions just pouring my heart out and talking about, I drank a bottle of wine last night. We had another failed round. I'm bleeding.
It's great.
And I needed that therapy. Oh my God. Where would I be without it?
I always encourage people, ask for support.
I got to hear it.
Hand
yes.
Up. Put your hand up. Yes. And don't
yes.
suffer alone. No, I don't believe in suffering alone.
Suffering
Definitely.
alone is self-flagellation. And I'm not about that. Yeah.
Now, moving on. I have 3 tips on relationship for everyone.
Great. Can always get more tips from you, Ingrid.
Lovely. So I reckon number 1 will be intimacy check-in. So, for example, last night actually in my live, Relax and Raunchy Relationship FB Live, I answers a man's question about this particular topic, intimacy. So if, for example, if you're experiencing your partner withholding intimacy or sex from you, I recommend to check in why, but come from a loving, compassionate energy. So not sort of like blaming, you say no again, I feel so rejected. Why are you doing this to me? Not from that energy, but regularly check in, because it may come from a past trauma that they haven't resolved, maybe because they are resentful because of your behavior or current action. So you just need to check in and communicate, because if you let it lapse, it may grow into further resentment, and soon enough you'll find yourself in deep trouble. So that's tip number 1 in regards to the intimacy area. And then number 2 will be being open about intimacy preferences. Everyone has different fantasy.
Kinks.
Different wants, needs, fantasy, right? So again, with
fetishes. Nothing makes you blush, Miss Triple X.
So yeah, just again checking in, but checking in about the preferences. Yes, I don't want you to go too far beyond your box that is against your belief and core values. But
can I just ask on this point, sorry to interrupt, but why do you think it's so hard for people who've been married, say 5, 6, 10 years to be open with one another in terms of sharing what is quite intimate and in terms of fantasies? Why is it that some couples do that and other couples just can't find their way into those conversations?
Because probably they feel ashamed about their preferences. It's a very, very deep and intimate thing.
Or that they'll shock their partner.
Yes.
With what they want, or that they won't be able to give.
Yes. Afraid of
they don't see their partner
judgment. Yes. Afraid of shame and judgment. But actually, when you actually share it, you never know. They may be open to that. They may be receptive to that. But being mindful as well that, yes, you would love for your wishes to come true, but also being mindful that if your partner is particularly conservative, for example, that they may not be able to go all the way. They may be able to go just a little bit outside their comfort zone, which I recommend, but not necessarily completely sort of like change them to the core, because that will be against their core values. And then number 3 will be to honor each other's space, I reckon. Everyone grows on their own rate. Yeah. So allow for that to happen. But again, the word check-in come in two place. Do regular check-in to make sure that you're on the same page or operate on the same wavelength. So that would be my 3 tips. Yeah. So now, people, it's time for the fun part. True or false? I have 2 statements from Arielle. Let's guess which one is true and which one is false. Arielle once dripped honey on a bare man's chest as a television extra. Or number 2, Arielle once dripped candle wax on a man's nipples as a television extra.
I thought you'd like those.
Oh, I know. So triple X. So I am guessing maybe number 2. It's just because it sounds juicier. Number 3 is correct. What do you think, Arielle?
You want me to
reveal which one is the correct answer?
Was number 1.
Ah, okay.
I used to work. Do you want to know the context for that?
Of course. Yeah, tell us about the story.
My original career was in television production as a video editor and producer.
Yeah.
And I worked on a show hosted by Tottie Goldsmith. Anyone who was watching free-to-air TV back in the mid-90s would know Tottie Goldsmith and Sex / Life. Sex Life.
Yeah.
And it was quite a revelatory show. It was before. It was just when reality TV was starting to happen.
Yep.
And Sex Life was a show that was on, I think it was Channel 10, produced by Beyond Productions, who was my employer at the time.
Yeah.
And
I watched that show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was like Cosmopolitan on TV. It was like positions and different kinds of condoms. And I remember once I was looking after props and I had to call Ansel and ask them for like 1,000 condoms for a shoot we were doing. And, I had some great fun stories from that show. Yeah. And I remember there was one show, which now when you think about it, is you can't imagine that there was a huge outcry of public outrage when there was a mixed heritage couple in bed together for one of the shoots that we did. Mixed heritage. So, a black guy with a white woman. It was like, it in the mid-90s, that was on free-to-air TV. That was not okay. So they were really pushing the boundaries with what they did. And it was educational. It was fun. It was naughty, and it was educational. Love it. Yeah. So this one time we were doing a shoot about certain kinks and honey on a man's chest, and the extra for that scene didn't turn up. So they were like, anyone want to do that? And, we have a crew there. We've got the guy there, the chest, the honey. So it was like, I'm a jack of all trades. I can do honey. I don't care. I like honey. So that was my little bit. And what was funny was not long after that, I went to a school reunion and a lot of people said, what happened to you, Arielle? You used to be we thought you were going to be like, a lawyer or some smart, kind of thing. And then we see you dripping honey on a guy's chest on Sex Life. Wow, you really went down here. Anyway, that was fun, and I just did not mind, and I can't even remember. I remember the drip of honey. I don't remember what the guy looked like or anything. I was nervous as anything. I'm the sort of person, I say I'm going to do something, and then when I'm doing it, it's like, oh my God, what did I get myself into? So yes, you got it wrong.
It will fill your soul, definitely.
Well, at least I can say, tick, I've had my 15 minutes of fame on Sex Life. So now on to yours.
Yes.
Ingrid's true or false. So Ingrid's daughter cut a special package with a steak knife, or Ingrid's husband cut a special package with a steak knife. Much less salacious than mine. What's the special package? Oh, so like a box.
You need to...
Sorry, I'm still thinking about the chest and the package. So a box.
Well, you just need to guess which one, number 1 or number 2 is correct.
I think 1.
1. You are correct. Yes, that is the answer. So the story was when my second daughter, Bibi, she was maybe she was 2 or 3 in our in our previous house. You know, she was the so-called the naughty one. Anyway, Andy and I were talking about something, and then all of a sudden I turned my head around to the left, and I saw, what's that on the carpet in the lounge room? It's poo. And guess what next to it? A steak knife, and it's been cut in half. Oh,
Is that
Bibi!
a special package?
Oh, yes. I just realized, like, oh, Bibi, what did you do?
She wanted to see what was inside her poo. My mum did that once when my sister swallowed a 2-cent coin, and my mum had to go through every bit of poo until that 2-cent coin revealed itself because it was dangerous. So I can relate to that. Like, why wouldn't you look inside a piece of poo? You want to see, like, how does that happen? Like, you eat food, and then what does it? How cute, but how dangerous. Yeah.
I know, curious little thing. She must have, gotten the steak knife from the kitchen sink or something.
Oh my God.
Yeah, just climb on the stool to get it. And then, well, did a poo-poo on the carpet. There you go. The story
sounds
of
like
motherhood, right?
Sounds like you, like me, Ingrid, are not a helicopter parent. We can't be cotton wooling our children. We just hope that they don't stab each other. I've got twin boys, and I did have one. I've got a story about a knife and one twin and another twin, and it was like, I don't want to end up on 60 Minutes or some show about like sibling murder. So
yes.
You just got to put the fear in them. And you touch that. My guys still lick knives. Do your girls do that? Like, they've got, talking about honey, they love their honey, and they'll be licking their knives. I mean, don't you want to slice your tongue open, kid? I'm breeding boys with a healthy dose of fear. So if they don't wear skate helmets in the skate park, I'm like, you want to crack your head, feel your brains all over the floor? You do that. You just keep doing that. You want to slice your tongue open? Just keep licking those knives. That's a good job. Just do that. So it's all, I don't know if it's the right way to go, but so far it's working okay. We haven't had any knife stabbings lately.
Incidents.
Yeah.
All right. So that brings us to the end of our podcast. And thank you so much, people, for listening to us, watching our collaboration together. I started this podcast simply because I was bored and feeling down during COVID lockdown. So at the beginning of COVID lockdown, and I thought, what can I do to bring fun and inspiration back to business owners and supporting other business owners because, well, a lot of people are having a downturn of their business. So therefore, I created this podcast to support everyone locally and globally. So in the future, we will have another podcast session with more local and global business owners and having fun, just like this one. And if you would like to connect with Arielle for support in regards to infertility support or marketing support, they can reach you by, how can people reach you, Arielle? Okay, so I'm all over social media. On Instagram, I'm at Barbarella Bondi. BarbarellaProductions.com.au is my website. And I'm also on Facebook as Barbarella Productions. On LinkedIn, I'm Arielle Nakache, which is a bit hard to spell, N-A-K, just add ake to the end of that. Everyone thought I was Japanese at school. Sounds like Nakache. And I also just wanted to mention, if anyone is interested in how I achieved my fantasy of becoming a parent, and becoming a parent to these 2 beautiful little boys who were actually born in India. There's a great article that I participated in called From Here to Maternity. And if you want to read about my happy ending, you can just Google From Here to Maternity, Sydney Morning Herald or Good Weekend, and you'll find that article that was written about 8 years ago. Yeah, but I'm more than happy to share more intimately on that if anyone has any questions about how we achieved our family, or if anyone needs any support at all. I'm so
happy to share as someone who's been through it, and
Yeah.
I do believe that I can really empathize, and I have a lot of compassion and sympathy for anyone going through any kind of infertility struggles. And I really wish anyone out there who's listening all the best, all the very best with your journey. If you do know anyone who's going through infertility struggles, the best thing you can say to them is, I'm so sorry. Can I make you a cup of tea?
Mm.
Or what kind of wine do you like, red or white?
Now,
Because
and
anything
then,
else is just salt in the wound.
yes.
Yeah.
And then if you would like to connect more with me for more relationship questions, you can go to www.kahyangan.com.au. That is KAHYANGAN. If you can like or subscribe my YouTube channel, Ingrid Galloway, that would be great. And all the links will be posted on the comment and on the post as well. So you can follow us, stalk us online, but no threads, please. All right. Thank you so much, Arielle, for being my
Thank
lovely
you
guest.
so much, Ingrid.
I
It's
will
such a pleasure.
I will see you next time with new guests. Bye, people.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mwah.